Wuthering Waves is killing it globally. By Asmongold TV, let's take a look at this.
Wuthering Waves become a global phenomenon? Is this true?
Wuthering Waves is already a global phenomenon level game this year, and that's true. There isn't a single gacha game listed here except for Wuthering Waves. That is crazy. Wuthering Waves is the gift that keeps on giving.
What's
and
this?
by giving, I mean giving ample opportunities to laugh at all the people that said this was going to be a catastrophic failure. Earlier this morning at 4:24, I know I was awake at 4 in the morning, much to my dismay, I made a tweet covering an article that was posted over on GameLook.
Okay.
I stated, haters said that Wuthering Waves wouldn't make much money in its first month, that it's dead on arrival. Yet according to data from GameLook, it's already made $110 million and is expected to reach $140 million within its first month of release. So
Nice.
That's holy shit. That's more than Honkai Star Rail and Genshin.
Whoa.
Jesus.
hours later, a thread was made over on the Gacha Gaming subreddit titled Wuthering Waves almost
In 1 month, sheesh. I mean, they got good gameplay, so...
recouped the entire development cost in a month.
Wow.
According to a GameLook article, Wuthering Waves' estimated revenue since launch is at least $110 million. By the end of Update 1.0, it could exceed $130 million. In addition,
Jesus
Wuthering Waves
Christ.
appeared at the Apple conference. The game has received quite a lot of success, and it really has.
I can
the top
see that.
comment is, God, I hope they use that money well on better translators, voice directors, and especially hire Vanguard to improve the game's piss-poor music. I do agree
Sure.
on the translation and the localization.
Yeah,
I
sure.
also agree on the voice direction.
That's
Chapter
crazy.
6
Yeah, it
or
is.
Act 6 was phenomenal, but that can't be said for Acts 1 through 5.
Yeah, I just had to switch to JP voices at some point.
There were performances that definitely stood out, like Gion, like Scar, but the vast
Yeah.
I feel
majority.
like really, I looked at that Gacha Gaming subreddit a couple of times, and it seems like the people that are on that subreddit really don't want Wuthering Waves to succeed. They really don't want, and I think that I know why. I think that a lot of them are already like super invested in like other existing gacha games.
Whoa.
So they don't want to see a new game come up and be popular.
I'm thinking maybe they're just getting paid. Maybe they're just like, maybe there's just some bot operations going on. I don't know. Like for me, I like having more games to play. Of course, you're gonna get some people to carry water for the company for various reasons. Like maybe they're just like 14 and this is the first game they played. Sure. And then they feel like, oh, I'm invested in this game. That's another game. And now I have to post about it. It's like, okay, sure. But I'm thinking there's a lot more going on. And I do wonder, like, how would you signal boost stuff like this if you also have some money to burn, right? I mean, there must be a way, right? Like, with some plausible deniability, right?
Because if a new game is the new biggest game, now all of their money that they spent on their current biggest game is like they're not playing the biggest game anymore.
And yeah, sure, some coast fallacy going on, sure, but I'm not even sure that somebody who spends serious money on a game is gonna be like that. Like, it's sunk anyway. Like, you're sinking money anyway, right? It's all gone. It's all like, the game could shut down tomorrow because a meteorite hit the data center. You know what I mean?
Right?
Like, come on.
Because like imagine you've invested over the course of 3 years $15,000 into Genshin Impact, and then somebody tells you your game is dying.
Invested, quote unquote.
Well, where's that money going? Well, I know where it's going. It's going where it always was, but you didn't want to admit. It's going into the fucking garbage. Sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah, see, I think people already know that, so...
Yeah, exactly. You think WoW players' minds work any different? No, I don't. I think it's the same thing.
It gets a lot more iffy when you actually can get something back, right? Like when you're a content creator for the game, all right? And so if you're a content creator, maybe you can also make Reddit threads on your alt account or whatever, right? Maybe you can be a little crafty and then tell people like we all are gonna upload it, even though they aren't really. They don't really mean it, you know what I mean? Like it seems plausible at first glance, but then it's like, actually it's just like, oh, Wuthering Waves is a bad game, and like, why would you upload that? What? Like in essence, it may come down to that. Anyway, I blame low friction social media interactions.
Already needed a lot of
Also, sunk cost fallacy again is like, it's a good thing to bring up because it involves you actually expected to get something out of it, right?
direction that just wasn't there. Specifically talking about the article over on GameLook, Ming Chao, which is Wuthering Waves, made a successful appearance at Apple's WWDC conference with cumulative revenue exceeding 800 million. GameLook reports in the 2 weeks since it was officially launched, the discussion among players of the second game, Wuthering Waves, has never stopped. While the discussion in the player community remains hot, Kudo has also been adjusting and optimizing the game content. After the second half of version 1.0 of Wuthering Waves was released in advance on June 6th, the results of topping the best-selling list in 6 countries and regions and entering the top 10 of the best-selling lists in 29 countries and regions.
That's pretty impressive, man.
It's enough to show that Wuthering Waves is not what many rhythm-setting players say it is. There are still many players who are actually playing the game, and they're also looking forward to Kudo's optimization measures and subsequent updates. That's true. It topped the charts in so many countries around the world. It was the most downloaded game, reaching over 30 million downloads over the course of just that couple-week period. And as noted, there are still plenty of mobile players specifically that are hoping and waiting to get into the game.
Yeah, the game doesn't run that well on a phone, as far as I know.
They can. Revenue is no doubt going to spike even higher. At the 2024 Apple WWDC Global Developers Conference held in the early morning of June 11th, Beijing time.
All they need to do really is like, because there are...
I guess one guy in chat works fine on my phone. The guy I play on my phone. Like, yeah, I mean, of course it runs on phone, just not for a lot of people, clearly.
Already doing this. Like, so there's like two female characters in the game that like there's like this one girl in like the campaign where you're like pinning her down on like the ground, and there's another one that they just added where it's like at the end of the story it's like you are like basically dating her, kind of like Camellia, yeah, whatever the fuck, I don't know how to say her name, but yeah, she's like the red one, right? She pins you maybe. And anyway, so this happens, like that's all they need to do is just keep.
Yeah, and this is why AI for girlfriend experience is never really gonna catch on, because you actually gotta do something like this. And this is a pet peeve I keep bringing up. You gotta like micromanage everything when you're talking to an AI, it feels like. And like this, it's like, yeah, you just get a nice ride, okay? It's like, anyway.
Keep doing more of that.
Maybe do some hybrid, I don't know. But you gotta get some scenario writers in there, and then it's not really AI, it's just like AI assisted writing that you did and don't expect the user to do. Right? Like talking to AI is like being your own writer. Like my sister, my writer, is like being your own writer. Maybe not really, but anyway. I just love bringing up that anime. It's so fun. And it doesn't deserve the 5 out of 10 rating. I mean, to be fair, I watched it like 5 years ago. Anyway.
Because like it's so easy to farm simps with this shit, it's crazy. Like I can't even believe it, how easy it is. But it works every time.
Wuthering Waves once again brought some good news.
It's nuts.
The game display section introducing the Mac section on the day of the press conference. Wuthering Waves appeared. This is also the only Chinese game product that appeared in this conference.
Oh.
Other games.
How is he excited for AI, but he doesn't understand the gacha gamer experience. Meow.
Included Dead Island 2, Sniper Elite 2, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Control, Power World, Resident Evil.
Also good old classic visual novel experience. Let's not forget where we come from here.
Riven, Prince of Persia, Valheim, WoW, Frostpunk, Resident Evil, and, well, I mean, I think that I see 2 Resident Evils. I did. And RoboCop. The biggest news at yesterday's conference was Apple's announcement of a partnership with OpenAI. This is largely unimportant. Let's skip to the part specifically concerning Wuthering Waves. Here we go. What does the appearance of Wuthering Waves at this conference mean? Before we delve any deeper into the article, let me take a moment.
I'll tell you what it means. It's that people want to play like a good game with good combat. Like that's literally it. Nobody gives a shit about anything else besides that. People want to play a game that plays well, and Wuthering Waves does play well.
Very much
That's what really matters. Like people always like to get things twisted and like, you know, turn it into something else. And like that's why Genshin does so well too. It's because it plays well.
Yeah. It's a little bland after a couple of years, you know, but maybe the competition is gonna make MiHoYo add a couple more combat features, like, I don't know, rewards for dodging, rewards for timing attacks. So much you could be doing. Also, why do I see Eden Eternal recommended video in the on this? Oh, it's a Patreon. I see. That was an interesting game.
Like, that's the reason. The lag's insane, though.
To thank
Many
my
other
incredible
games with better
patrons over
combat.
on Patreon and my YouTube
Yeah,
channel
it's good.
members who allow for me to continue to do dedicated videos like this every single day. You guys
Yeah.
are phenomenal. I can't thank you all enough for the support. During the session where Apple executives showcase the games that will be available on Apple Mac devices this year, a poster.
I also think that it's pretty obvious that like mental illnesses on the internet are on the rise at a disturbingly fast level or rate, excuse me.
Sure.
And I think that if you
Not just
had
there.
like two graphs, right? So
I don't actually worry about it on the internet, actually.
like if you made a graph like this and let's see here.
I like how one of the shares was like, I have the best CPU and the best graphics card. Where's the lag?
Go ahead. The red is mental illness, and then green is gotcha. Oops, let me make it green. Gotcha game players. And so, like, if you had two lines here, the lines would go up like this. So
What?
you can see kind of, yeah. So I think
What?
this is really where we're having a situation, right? And I think everybody knows this is true, right? Everybody knows it's true. Definite.
I like that chat here, just correlation. I'm actually not sure that it's worse than how it used to be on the internet. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? People were always unhinged on the internet. Like, what do you mean? Like, don't tell me that the internet was not full of strange people who were programming Temple OS or something. You know what I mean?
Correlation. Yeah, I think it's pretty much the same thing. I wonder why. I don't.
For Wuthering
I
Waves
know
appeared
why.
on the big screen. It can be seen that the game's listed alongside
I'm not really sure what the point is he's trying to make also.
Wuthering Waves in the new game listing.
Is this like a pandemic response sort of point he's making? I don't know.
Include classic works such as Sniper Elite 4,
Yeah.
which has been around for 7 years, as well as Frostpunk 2 and Assassin's Creed Shadow, which have not yet been officially launched. It includes well-known AAA standalone masterpieces such as Resident Evil and Dead Island, as well as online games such as Phantom Blue, which has been extremely popular this year. I'm assuming Phantom Blue here is Pow World. It can be said that these games are all highly watched works in their respective fields, and
Yeah.
the fact that Magic Tide, it can be said that these games are all highly watched works in their respective
Maybe gacha games popularized the MMO formula without being so tedious. And so everyone's like an MMO player now. Maybe that's why mental illness is on the rise. I don't know. Huh. Nah, I don't think that's the case. I think people are just more emboldened to represent, as they say, their appreciation of silly games, which they don't get to be like, oh, people weren't silly before. They just, they just like silly games, and now they feel emboldened to represent as their favorite games are getting bigger. And if World of Warcraft had a moment and got 10 times bigger, you could bet that you would see all kinds of silly people representing under the banner of World of Warcraft. You know what I mean? Anyway, so it's just as something gets big, you get people whose whole identity is saturated with the thing, represents quote unquote the thing online. And it doesn't even have to be online games. It could be like literally gender identities, right? Like, I'm not saying people can't have the genders they want. It's just, if your gender identity is pretty much all your identity, you're gonna be a bad look, right?
fields.
30
and the
million
fact that Wuthering
downloads.
Waves is among them actually shows that from
Wow.
Apple's perspective. Wuthering Waves is already a global phenomenon level game this year. That's
Jesus.
true. There isn't a single gacha game listed here except for Wuthering Waves. That is crazy. It is not difficult to
Whoa.
understand why Apple listed it as a blockbuster game this
Jesus.
year. After Wuthering Waves was officially launched, it not only topped the best
What are the
selling
age demographics of gacha games? I feel like people of all ages play them.
Yeah.
But like the one thing about gacha games that's different than like other types of games is that they have a really big audience of like young kids that play them. Whereas I think that games like, for example, like Counter-Strike or like I don't know, like other games that are like Dragon's Dogma 2, for example.
I mean, are you telling me League of Legends doesn't have a lot of young players? Are you telling me? Are you telling me? What do you mean?
Like, I think that of course there's kids that play every game, but I think that like the ratio is like much higher for gacha games because they're
Then again, League kind of turned into a gacha game too, with the skin loot boxes and the events and stuff. Anyway,
like cartoons, and like the way that the stories are told is like kind of usually like it's a little bit immature, you know.
Genshin takes forever to make a point, yeah, but I think that's a problem with the writing, not like the target audience, actually.
The Asia Pacific
Also, there's the part where you have to buy certain games, right? So that eliminates a lot of the player base.
market, but also
Free to play, yeah, that's another reason it's free to play. It's not $70 like Dragon's Dogma.
Today, the global downloads of Wuthering Waves have exceeded 30 million. According to GameLook's estimates,
That's
and
nuts.
this is just an estimate, mind you, this is not set in stone, this is not verified, 100% valid, as Kudo have not confirmed specifics, but when it comes to revenue posted online, for any gacha game, it's always an estimate. Wuthering Waves' global revenue on all platforms, including PC, not just mobile exclusively here, has exceeded 800 million last week. According to this trend, Wuthering Waves' revenue in the first natural month is very likely to exceed 1 billion yuan. Such a first month revenue is a very explosive performance in the global market this year, and that's true. 110 million US dollars, potentially 130 plus.
I feel like also like with gacha games, this is another thing, is that I think that every gacha game has a lifespan. And like and I know that like it can exist beyond that lifespan.
This is true for MMOs as well.
But like in terms of like success, like
and I don't disagree. And it's like games like Path of Exile that keep themselves fresh by having leaks, by having a quick pathway to building your character and resetting progress every 3 months. You don't have to do it every 3 months. You could do it every 2 years. But yeah, I mean, that can keep things fresh. If you also take risks to innovate the game like you do see in Path of Exile.
It has a success lifespan. And I think the reason why is that gacha games live and die based off of the characters that get introduced into the game. And I think that once you introduce enough characters into the game, there will become overlap with the nuances and the vibes of the new characters with existing characters, which will make the new introductions less exciting or less exciting more often, right?
Of course, it's going to be less profitable as the release schedule for characters slows down. League of Legends had that problem too, but are you telling me like League of Legends has a lifespan, right? Like it's like the profitability. I could see that point that it's gonna go down over time, but yeah, I mean, that's like saying MMOs have a lifespan because the rates get stale, right? And I mean, it's not wrong in a way. You could pick whatever really that's gonna get samey after a while, unless you do like real innovation, like maybe have a different story. Like this is why MiHoYo released another game and then they're releasing their next game soon, right? Because it's like, yeah, that's innovation in a way. I think the point is wrong. It's just, yeah, games get stale unless you take risks and innovate. And sometimes it's best to just make new games.
So like every once in a while you'll still have a good one, but like you're gonna have less of those. It's like a TV series. Yeah, kind of, right? They run out of waifus, right? Because like, yeah, you can have, like, for example, you can only bring out the goth mommy waifu one time, and it's the first time that you've had one, right? Because, yeah, people will get the second and the third one, sure, but they already have the first one. So, like, that...
Yeah, I mean, I have Fu Chao. Why do I want the knave? I don't know. I didn't roll for her. And MiHoYo really tried to sell her. I know. But so I got more characters to wait for, actually, so many characters coming up I want. Like, didn't they just release a teaser new character? She's gorgeous, right? Anyway.
Diminishing return is there. You see kind of what I'm saying, right? And like they have, you know, like there's the different like girl archetypes. And so they release like every girl archetype. And then after they do that...
That's not really how it works. You have like an unlimited variety of combinations you can do, actually. Combine things. It's like you actually don't run out of interesting character dynamics. And also, you know, like the thing is sometimes older voice actors like that you had previously become less available, right? So you actually just have to rejuvenate the roster with characters where you actually can find a voice actor for them, or like because you don't get the old voice actor for the character that you used to get, right? So you know.
Then it's like, well, you got to release the same archetypes again.
And yeah, I mean there's overlap, sure, but it's not necessarily a problem. I mean, nobody's crying about Eula not really existing, even though she's for some reason she shows up in the most useless events anyway in terms of story. It's like anyway, we need a skip button for these.
With like maybe a different color. So like there's diminishing returns on and on and on, right? And that's how it happens.
Overstating.
Don't underestimate thirst. Yeah, this well drives off eventually. Yeah, because people like the new characters are not as exciting because there's so many other characters that already exist. It's just diminishing returns.
There's definitely gonna be a slowdown of character releases. Also because of gameplay elements, you can't like keep releasing the same character gameplay wise. In fact, I feel like that's the thing with the Knave. It's like she's a fire DPS. It's like, okay, we have this at home, silly people. Look, Hu Tao.
So I think that's the big reason. At that point, people won't quit because they're investment. Yeah, but people won't get excited about the game either. Because like also like for example like playing Genshin, how could I possibly go back and play Genshin right now when there's like 80 characters in the game and like I don't have any of them?
What?
Because like so that's people that like understand it. Like damn, like I have all this stuff I'm missing. Like.
What? But I skip like, dude, like what? Like most people play these games semi-free to play. Alright, so you skip like at least half the characters. What are you talking about?
Like basically like these people have, like think of it as like a toolbox, right? Like these people have like 80 tools in their toolbox.
Man, he should play for some Genshin sometime because Genshin is not a hard game. Hello?
I've got 7.
Like I got Farina and I got... What's the midget called? My favorite midget, who's also super badass in that one character quest. Nahida. Yeah. I got Farina and I got Nahida. What do you mean? I had tools for all situations now. Although I was feeling I could need a Hydro DPS. I gotta pick up a Hydro DPS sometime. Maybe I got the Dragon Dude sometime.
I'm gonna feel like I'm at a disadvantage, and I'm gonna feel like I missed the boat on playing the game. You see what I'm saying? Like, and I get.
But that's a Genshin problem, because the story has no skip button and it's like 3 times as long as it should be to tell the story. And they can fix that, and they should fix that.
Right? It's like, you don't need all of them, right? But like, that's the like, I'm talking about the psychology. Like,
I'm thinking he doesn't understand the psychology of gacha gamer.
I'm not talking about the logic, I'm talking about the psychology. So like, wouldn't you like, that's why people get
now that I think about it, it really isn't. I mean, come on. And there's reruns for banners. It's like, come on. Like, I'm still trying to get that Summer Hoshino in Blue Archive on my global account, even though I stopped playing that game for a while again. But I'm sitting on like 20k Pyroxene, that should be enough, right? Get some from the whatever event is gonna go on at the time whenever she rerun, and I'm gonna get my swimsuit Hoshino. I'm gonna get my Summer Hoshino, right? It's gonna be good.
Excited for a new game like this to come out, because then they get to start on the ground level. Yeah, the FOMO, so basically FOMO keeps people in the game, but it also keeps people out of the game, because
I will say Blue Archive is a strange game, given there's almost no gameplay. There's just content to solve, right? And so I'm impressed it's doing as well as it's doing, because I don't mind solving content, you know, it's pretty fun, but then it's kind of like out of content in a way. But then they do throw you a lot of free pulls if you just daily play, so maybe that's how it works. But so like they actually focus on giving you the tools for keeping up with character releases in Blue Archive in a way. They're super generous, so it's never a bad time to start playing Blue Archive if you just want to get a sense of it, enjoy the game, solve some raids. Like the raids are really nice in Blue Archive. I just feel like the game isn't really structured around around them in like a serious way. The game is structured around logging in daily and picking up the rewards to be able to summon more characters later. And it's like, you know, that's how it's structured. And I'm not actually that interested in that.
As the people that are out of the game, the FOMO acts as a barrier to entry, so they don't want to get into it because they've already been fucking playing the game. Or sorry, they haven't been playing the game, and so they've missed all these things.
But I mean, clearly this is something that's going on. I'm just not sure how important it is, right? Like we still talk about really good games, regardless of how you acquire characters.
The people that have been playing the game already have.
And also that do have fall-off points for reasons like any other game has them. Story gets stale, gameplay gets stale, company don't take risks. Might as well make new game for new story and new risks, right? I mean, anyway. It really is more about saturation in other regards than personality, I feel like. I mean, nobody is gonna be like, oh, Toho is done because you know, every character has been done already, right? Like, we already had a Shrine Maiden who's, like, looking for the money or whatever. But then we have a Shrine Maiden who's, like, all about snakes? I don't know. Sana is pretty cool, right? Right? That was Mountain of Faith. That was a good one. And now we're, like, 10 games deeper into this? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean, run out of characters?
The time, the month.
And that's one dude making Toho. Right? I mean, come on.
Ends.
And I know, they're pretty thin in terms of personalization sometimes, characterization sometimes. But so what's the problem?
Have to factor in here that we're also...
You could just be like, well, we're gonna have a new story. And there's gonna be characters, and one of them is gonna be well-rounded, and we're gonna actually sell them on the gacha banner. It's like, the point is that you actually release, that you write the story, you know, where people care about the characters. The other argument was, there's so much stuff already that it's hard for people to get into. And I mean, sure. It's like kind of like every other live service game, pretty much. Still think it's a fair argument because if it's not specific to gacha games, but yeah, as a specific to gacha games, I don't know, man. I feel like, again, every game has this problem if it's gonna be a live service game. And if it isn't, then it literally has like 100-hour of playtime paradigm anyway, or something like it. Yeah, of course there's gonna be extra content for the grind lords. And of course some games are gonna be like 30 hours, because like, you know, you might as well sell a $70 game that has 30 hours of gameplay, because, you know, it happens.
Getting Jinsa's banner towards the end of the month, so we got a few days of revenue from Jinsa's banner as well to add to the no doubt monolithic amount of revenue that Kudo has received, that they have earned through the Yinlin and Gion banners, along with all the whales that are trying to push ahead. On the other hand, Apple gave Wuthering Waves global recommended resources today in more than 100 countries worldwide, on April 22 and May 23rd. This shows that not only excellent results achieved after the game was launched, but also the game quality itself was recognized by Apple before the official launch. The achievements made by Wuthering Waves after the early release of the second half of version 1.0 on June 6th have demonstrated that the quality of the game itself is strong enough. At the same time, Kudo's series of operational remedial measures...
Well, the reality is, like, there's almost no features in Wuthering Waves that are unique. So, the
yeah, it just hasn't been done in an open world sort of setting.
ecosystem is the same system that's in Blue Protocol.
Like, I'm thinking what is it called? By the way, nobody played Blue Protocol before, besides people who played the JP beta or whatever, right? Anyway, the open world combined with the combat, I don't think anyone has done like that style of combat in an open world before.
The upgrade system is the same system that's in every single game in, what do you call it? Every single game in a gacha game. Like, everything in Wuthering Waves... Very few things. I'd have to really think about it because I haven't played a lot of gacha games. I've played like a few of them, right? But
yeah, I'm thinking most gacha games follow Summoner's War Sky Arena itemization on some level. But that's because MiHoYo does it and Wuthering Waves does it, so...
Almost everything that I know of, there's not a single thing that I see in that game that's like unique or different. But it's just good. That's it.
Yeah, sure.
That's literally it. It's just good. Like, people, it's like Power World, right? Power World didn't have a lot of unique stuff. It was just good. Literally combat. Wait, what? No. You think combat is unique with Wuthering Waves? No, it's not. You attack, the mob has a health bar. You character swap to reduce the stamina bar. Intro and outro, I'd say, are new. No, Tower of Fantasy had that.
Parries and stuff existed before. It's just, right, like, you don't really do the parries in, like, Tower of Fantasy. Tower of Fantasy is such a hot mess of, like, the combat in Tower of Fantasy just made me, like, the whole problem with Tower of Fantasy was the lag, right? Like, the latency. It was, Wuthering Waves lets you have client-side interactions. While Blue Archive, no. While Tower of Fantasy had too much stuff going on server side, so it just made the, like, it's just so much worse, like, plainly in terms of execution of what it's trying to do, compared to, like, Dark Souls, which is all client side, obviously. Like, that's the problem with Tower of Fantasy. It's fundamentally an MMO, right? And that means limitations to the engine, and, like, everything has to be server sided. Wuthering Waves, not so much. And so it's like it's an online RPG. You get away with more stuff there. I wonder how many people can actually play in the same instance in Wuthering Waves. Like, can you do more than 8 people in Wuthering Waves? Probably not. Just because you would get way too bad desync just in terms of, like, the logic on the server. It would just be like spaghetti. It's like, what actually is supposed to happen here? Like, teleporting enemies all over forever? Yeah, like, no. It's like, there's a hard limit around 8 players if you want to do the gameplay as client-sided as you do with Wuthering Waves.
Like, if you swapped in a character whenever the character, like, their intro was empowered.
Although I'm thinking you could bypass this. If you do client-side and server-side calculations at the same time, you can run plausibility checks every now and then use these to inform the player states periodically. But, man, it could be completely desynced as well. And so how do you do the plausibility check then? Anyway, I'm just thinking Tower of Fantasy had a really tough challenge, and I don't think they met it. But yeah, so it's really hard to compare anything to Tower of Fantasy, just because on the level of execution, it's not something I'm too into. I really think it was not fun to play. It was just like, okay, am I dodging? Okay, should I dodge? Why is the dodge synced with the server side? Like, what is going on? It just threw me off too hard.
Then it would do damage. Yeah, no, that's a Punishing Raven. Yeah, that's not new.
Punishing Grey Raven is the game they made before, by the way. So just a fun fact. And then they ported it to the open world, I guess you could say. Fair enough. By the way, I agree with Asmon's point here, kinda. It's just sometimes changing the scope is its own kind of achievement, you know? Not just like quantitatively, but qualitatively. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not a better game, but it's like it's a different game just because you scaled it to an open world. It's actually different.
To the game content after the launch have demonstrated to players their attitude and ability for long-term continuous operation. After the release of the second half of version 1.0 and Wuthering Waves' strong entry into the top 5 of the domestic iOS best-selling list, more and more silent players began to speak out. Well, yeah, they were very vocal. You want to know why? Because they didn't expect Wuthering Waves to achieve the success that it did, so they started losing their minds. They were like, oh my god, there's no way. We have to try and debunk this. There were 34 million pre-registered players. Clearly, they were all bots. Oh my god, there were 30 million downloads. Most of them were probably just people that were re-rolling.
It's all
they
fake.
made $100 million plus. Well,
that's all fake. It's fake money. It's not real money.
Impact made more than $100 million. Oh, Honkai Star Rail also made more than $100 million. How else can we attempt to lessen the impact that Wuthering Waves has had on the gacha scene? They're mauling. They're losing their shit every time Wuthering Waves has an achievement. Haters are the first people to complain. They're the
and I'm going to tell you another reason why people don't like Wuthering Waves and want to see it fail. Okay. It's because Wuthering Waves is hard. Like, and I'm not saying it's like as hard as Millennia and Elden Ring, but it's hard. Like, if you go and you do a what's that hologram?
I feel like Blue Archive is hard. as a hard game to beat. As like, and I don't just mean like because the Insane and Torment difficulties are like impossible. I mean because you actually have to look up guides, because like there are mechanics in fights all the time that are like, you know, you probably need to counter them, and like you could either figure it out like, you know, with your brain, or you look at a guide. And like, so anyway, I'm just saying, Blue Archive, that's a hard game. That's like, dude, tell me you can defeat the raids with a level appropriate on a difficulty that's appropriate for your characters without looking up a guide. Like, what do you mean? There's like so many raids with so many funky mechanics that are like, okay, so you gotta keep the debuffs on this one boss at like 4, around 4. Or he does mega damage and take no damage. And then he does a bunch of other things too. Like you can rotate this thing in the middle to either debuff the enemy or take damage. And also you gotta bring AoE, because this guy summoned a lot of ads that reflect damage onto the boss. It's like, so it really defines how you build your team. And so when I think hard, I'm thinking like, okay, am I just gonna use the same team everywhere? Then it's not really hard. Path of Exile is like, you build your character, that's half the game, and the other game is like running around like brainlessly, right? And then there's like bosses as well in Path of Exile, although I don't really care for these. But anyway, of course you can find difficulty in a mechanically challenging way, but I never really felt like I have to go do this hard fight in Wuthering Waves. Like it's all optional in a way, right? So anyway.
Ram 6 boss, that's challenging. That is a challenging boss.
Yeah.
And if you compare it to Star Rail, which is fucking turn-based combat, so like there's no real like dexterity reaction. Like
I feel like Star Rail is harder than Wuthering Waves. In a way, of course, swiping solves all your problems, but I am missing a star in the Memory of Chaos right now, right? It also has to do with not having a good DPS for the second half, sure, but you know, definitely challenges me more than anything in Wuthering Waves, because I don't touch like hologram level 6 or whatever. Like, why would I do that? It's like, I'm not looking for that. So hello? It's not why the game sells. It's not why people don't play the game. Like, that it's hard if then you do hologram level 6 with like under-level party. It's like, no. People play the game because it's fun gameplay. Also, I feel like people don't play the game because they don't have the hardware to play the game. Right? Like, oh, my phone doesn't work with this, so I should post on Reddit. Oh, my PC is too weak, so I should post on Reddit. Like, that's my hot take. Oh, my storage is full. I can't play the game now. If I wanted to play it on my like 10-year-old SSD, which has like no space left, I would have to uninstall Genshin. And content creators, sure. Some people who actually have a sunk cost fallacy going on, who are like, yeah, I'm a Genshin content creator. It's like I'm a Genshin Reddit mod. Yeah, like anyway.
Like difficulty there. Then you also have Genshin, which very seems like it is not even remotely hard. So guess what happens? Hard and mobile.
Hey, Genshin. I'm still missing a star in the first floor on Abyss right now. I'm just saying they sure put together a gauntlet of meat shields and spongy enemies. But I'm so close. Anyway, I'm not sure if it's worth getting the last star. Anyway, I told you I could need a Hydro DPS, by the way. Anyway, I'm not sure. Like, I think Genshin is plenty hard for like solving problems with what you got. And again, like throwing money at it solves every problem anyway, but where's the fun in that?
Standards. Yes, it is. It is. And so like I guarantee you that there are people with big egos that played Wuthering Waves and they can't get past Hologram 5.
They can't get past Hologram 5 because they did Hologram 1 and then they were like, that's cool. Let's do something else now.
That's not true. They can't get past Hologram 4. So now...
What do you mean Hologram 4? What are you talking about? I do Hologram 1, I'm out of here. What do you mean?
They don't want to see this game win because...
And I'm a pretty serious gamer. Like, what do you mean? Anyway, as I said earlier, I'm pretty sure the people who don't want to see the game quote-unquote win, they just plainly can't play it right now. I don't know.
If that game wins, then they lose.
force people to
Hologram 4, man. What are you talking about?
cover it, which just further boosts upon
Hologram 1, tried Hologram 2. I actually did defeat one Hologram 2. I think the bird or something. And then I never touched these holograms again after I did all of them on Hologram 1. And I think my party is strong now, so I probably could do Hologram 4, but like, let's be real here. I don't think that's good content. I don't think that's good content for me to enjoy, right? It's like, okay, I've done this before. It was Hologram 1, right? I did that before. My party was much weaker then, and it was kind of a challenge. And I'm gonna do all the holograms when my account is maxed out, right? Like, when we get another... I think I'm account level 47 or something. When I'm account level 60, then I'm gonna do the holograms, right? Right, like when the difficulty is appropriate, and I can do all of them. Like, quickly, because it's just like pick up the resources, right? I mean, anyway.
popularity of the game. More people are talking about it. More people are curious about it. As noted, this is an estimate. This is not a 100% confirmed, defined number.
No, I don't know yet.
But like, it's not like I don't mind the challenge. It's just, again, I did the hologram 1, and it's like, okay, and now we don't do this because it's the same stuff when it's harder. And like, our account is gonna be appropriately powerful for the hardest difficulty when we have the max character level unlocked, right? And so like, why would I even bother until we have max character level? I don't know.
Actual...
And there's gonna be plenty challenging gameplay later, right? I mean, that's gonna be balanced around max account level, and I look forward to that too, right? But it's like, you don't need to be some brainiac who does like hologram 6 with like level 60 characters or something, or like level 70, let's be realistic here. But yeah, or like, what is it? There's this cheesy strategy where you'd use the Dreamless summon to do stuff, right? It's like, I don't want to build this cheesy strategy. It's like, I can do that some other time. I built my teams that I like, and at some point maybe I want to do the cheesy strat, but just because I want to build Havoc Rover and I already got a dungeon, it's just, I don't feel like building the cheesy double Dreamless strategy, right? So, I mean, I don't know. It's more about people cheesing for 24-star Abyss or something. I mean, what's it called? Trial of Adversity. I'm not saying you can't do that. I just was like, I have other teams built. I'm good. Don't worry about it.
Real legitimate revenue could be significantly, exponentially higher, or it could ultimately be lower. But judging by the rankings, we've seen how it has been absolutely dominating Japan. It makes sense that these estimates are fairly accurate. 1.1 is releasing in literally 2 weeks. We have Jinsa coming. We have Zhangli.
Anyway, I feel like this is... we looked at plenty of this. Wuthering Waves doing great. Really happy for them. And as for the haters, I do think a lot of people just don't get to play the game, or they are literally 14 years old. And so, anyway, it's not like something I lose sleep over. Just happy for the game to be doing so well. I kind of wonder, is there more stuff in here as this? Like, we can talk about the haters or whatever. I don't care about that. We already talked about that. Let's put it that way. We got a list. We got World of Warcraft exists. And yeah, they have been taking risks, right? They've been having this season stuff, like they bring back vanilla and all. It's like, yeah, this is they do what they need to do to rejuvenate their game. I think, at least they're trying to. I don't know how successful, but I guess good for them. Okay, yeah. Alrighty. I hope you enjoyed the vid. We'll link both of them below. One by Stixxy and the reaction of Asmongold. And yeah, leave the good stuff. Likes, comments, share, subscribe, you know, all over the place. Over here too, over there too. And yeah, I just want you to get ahead, you know what I mean? Enjoy games you enjoy. Work with people you want to work with. People are awesome. And sometimes people shitpost on the internet. It is what it is. Also, people are maybe broadly delusional, but subclinically, and it actually doesn't really matter most of the time. All the more reason to work together, and people will come to see the errors of their ways as they try to get ahead with similarly situated people, however different their brain spaces might be. But so, you know, that's the thing. It's like working with people in a similar situation economically. It can be a really nice foundation for stuff. Going on a self-discovery journey for all parties involved. Anyway, hope you have a good one. Stay safe out there. Touch some grass as well. Get some sunlight. It's good. Meow.